first of all, ladies, have you had a good day?
Yes, it was brilliant so far.
So far?
So far, yeah, I know.
There's even
We've
more to
got
go.
an hour to go.
Exactly. What have you enjoyed?
I mean, the variety has been really good. I've sort of made a note of what to feed back to my team, and starting at national scale and down to, building domestic scale. There's something at every level. So yeah, really insightful.
I mean, we always try to build this event around the end user, and it's such a changing role. I don't know how long you've both been in energy, but do you think this is the most kind of, in a way, challenging but also exciting time?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I think we joined about a similar time, back in 2010, I joined the energy industry as such.
Oh, same as us. There you go.
See? So at that time, it was all about reducing your energy consumption. It was all about the kilowatt hour and just reduce how much you're using. And it was, targets, kilowatt hour per square footage. And that was all people were interested in. And what I found more recently is all about flexibility. So now it's all about when you consume that kilowatt hour, and do you consume it when it's cheaper or when it's the cheapest as such? And also, kind of how does that fit with the rest of your organization's challenges? So before it was all about, we're going to change our set point for HVAC. We're going to reduce it or increase it depending on what you wanted at the time to reduce or increase your consumption. But then now you can do that during the day because National Grid is paying more for reducing your consumption at specific times.
What about for your job with the university? We had one of your colleagues from the university sector. It's an interesting one because you're working for a commercial company. As a commercial company, it's the bottom line, the FD says this, whatever. But with universities, which is, all about good, there's an estate, which obviously you own, but then you've got this thing of the audience, the customer being the union, the students, and that sort of slightly different. Are you doing it altruistically or are you doing it, simply for the top line? How does it work for you?
So it's a little bit of both. I mean, there's in the kind of university's key strategy set out, some of the top level objectives are around managing our operating costs, which obviously energy efficiency feeds directly into that revenue line, and increasing student numbers. And I mean, you can see the media coverage in the last couple of years. Environmental concerns are massively high on the students' minds.
Do you find that?
Agenda.
Do they actually?
They are clamouring for it.
Really? What? We want some more solar-powered beer in the union.
We actually have got a green brewery in one of our.
I wish I'd been to your union. There we go.
So yeah, lucky guessing. But things like if a student's given a plastic cup, that will go on Twitter.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, which is a really powerful thing. And to some extent, I mean, the focus on plastic's been a really great thing and massively.
All because of David Attenborough,
yeah, that one
turtle.
episode.
Exactly, yeah.
But also, we want to make the point that yes, everybody's doing their own little thing about reducing waste and improving recycling and using less single-use plastic, but that's in terms of the environmental agenda at the university, that's a very small portion. Actually, we're investing a couple of £1 million a year into energy efficiencies and the whole carbon management and environmental programme. It's not just that that's what's fashionable at the time to think about. Everybody needs to think about, make sure you do turn off your lights when you leave your room and the simple things that everybody can do. So it's making sure that that's getting enough, the carbon reductions are getting as much focus as the plastic and the thing that's in the news right now.
What we tried to do this year with the conference was to have the three themes of future of supply, energy independence, the behind the meter thing, and then obviously technology. Of those three things, what do you think is the biggest issue for you? Is it, coming up with behind the meter solutions? Is it the supply, whether it's procurement or how supply is? Or is it the technological driver, which is kind of working across all three of them?
I think for me, I don't have much dealings with the procurement, so that route for me is kind of out. It's actually not part of my job role, but the other two come hand in hand for me. So it's which technologies will enable you to do behind the meter. So what technologies
what do you think
are
the right ones for in your case that you see? Because there's so many options out there for behind the meter stuff, aren't there?
I mean, some of the things I've looked at rather than what's right for me is sites where you already have backup generation. So you might have a diesel generator or a gas generator. How do you then use that as a behind the meter asset to bring more value to what you've got? And then you kind of need the technology to enable you to receive signals, to send signals, or even to start up faster and slower depending on what the signal you're receiving is. So Right now, I'm more interested in some form of intermediary. So let's say a small battery that will fit, that will sit in front of a backup generator so that you can use the two in tandem. I've spoken about it, I've spoken to the people about it, but I haven't actually seen anything that can do that just yet. So it's kind of a combination of the technology plus the behind the meter and what you can do so that reduce or flex your consumption.
And what about for you, Joe? Are you doing part of the procurement side as well or not?
Yeah, a little bit on procurement. We've made a pledge to our students that we'll buy 100% green electricity.
Again, the student that that's
yeah,
interesting.
so driven by the students. That was quite a few years ago now, before I joined. So that's from that element, that's kind of fixed, and we'll do that. So we go through the procurement process every few years. So for me, the more exciting stuff day to day is that technology again, the innovations. How can we pull that in?
At then?
So we've got a nice setup in that our main campus is on one supply, one MPAN, and it's almost, you can think of it as a mini city. So we've got a whole range of things in there. So we've got a low temperature hot water district heat network fed by a gas CHP. So that's a few years old now, which was retrofitted on an old steam district heating network. So that was a really big project that we've just extended to 2 more buildings, so providing low carbon heat, which we've talked a lot about today, heat being the next thing.
Yes, absolutely.
We've got another smaller campus that's off the gas grid, so currently being heated by kerosene oil boilers, which we're looking at.
You're trying to phase out, I assume,
Yeah, so actually we're doing kind of detailed design at the moment for a water source heat pump, taking water off the Thames. So early stages still, but going through the planning process and the Environment Agency applications and things like that. So that could be a really interesting piece of technology.
Doesn't the wealth of these technological solutions make your job more complicated? I mean, it was, dare I say, 2010 would have been pretty simple, isn't it? I want to buy it this time, and this is where I'm going to do it. Now, if you're thinking about water, water and planning applications and, heat sources, flipping heck, it's a bit complicated.
But it is very complicated, and that's kind of something I tried to draw out of our session earlier, but I don't think we got there, is that as an energy manager, you originally only cared about kilowatt hours, but now your role is, you need to speak to DNOs, you need to know what the DNO is to speak to them, you need to speak to your energy supply, you need to understand contracting, you need to understand time of day tariffs.
Also planning infrastructure, if you're going to put in charging points in now and stuff like that. How much is electric vehicles or electric batteries and storage going to be a big thing for you guys?
So we are at the point right now where we're rolling out electric vehicle charging points in our own estate.
Right.
So in our local offices and part of our plant and fleet, we've got an option for, so if you've got a company car, you can choose an electric car. So we are growing that market as such internally. So it's something we've started looking at ourselves, and how do we integrate that with what we've got on site and with the infrastructure that we've got.
And storage?
Storage is not something that we've looked at so far for our own site, but it's something that we've been looking at for our customers. So we've been looking at storage solution for a few different customers, smaller scale or behind the meter, between 250 kilowatts to 1 megawatt is what we've looked at and designed systems for our customers.
And with the uni, there's energy demands different parts, isn't it? A lab will need a different bit to the union, will need a different bit to the history department. But the EV side of things, I've seen quite a few unis where that's starting. Is that something that's on? So
we've put in the last couple of years, we put in a small number of EV charging points. Relatively low touch from the university. We've got is it ChargeMaster, one of the systems that they've come and installed on site. So we recharge electricity to them, and then they have customers sign up to their scheme. So we're looking to do some more of that going forwards. In terms of our own fleet, it's relatively small. We've got a few electric kind of go-kart type vehicles that go around campus collecting the bins, collecting the rubbish. So a few things like that. In terms of our maintenance and catering and security vehicles, at the moment they're still conventional fuel, but looking into different options.
You both mentioned heat there. Do you think that's one thing we've just ignored? Because it's all been the last probably 6-7 years about electrification and saving energy through what we do with electrification. What about heat, decarbonising heat?
I don't know where you want to go first.
Well, I guess we were lucky that we had this old steam network.
You've managed to do it in a way, haven't you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's still gas-fired boilers with a gas-fired CHP that's feeding that district heating network, but it is a better option than distributed gas boilers. We've obviously got a whole load of buildings which still are on gas boilers. I think decarbonising heat is the new conversation and is exciting to see where that goes. But in terms of energy efficiency, I think heating has long been on the agenda. I mean, talking about the fight about where your set point is something that every energy manager knows very well and rolls their eyes at. So yeah, heating hasn't been ignored.
Yeah.
Definitely.
For you, Miriam?
I think it's always been cheaper as a fuel. So
Yeah.
gas has been cheaper and also less, on paper, carbon intensive. So people always thought that, electricity is so carbon intensive, so we need to reduce electricity consumption, and sometimes allowed ourselves to use more gas. I think it was a project that we were both involved back in our own employer, joint employer, that we did a rollout of a lot of CHPs, for example, because it was less CO2 emissions, and that's how we were able to sell that through. But actually, I'm not sure how that would work in a current rate.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, finally, look, the whole thing about women, I mean, we did our first ever Women in Energy years ago in 2012. Dare I say, we have probably more women in our events than any others, but still not enough. Why do you think that is?
I think there's more women in energy than in engineering departments or in
Yes.
general facilities and maintenance departments. So we are usually one of few people in the room within our organisations. You see more women when you attend events like this. I don't know if it's the mother nature of women, where we tend to
Save the planet.
Yeah, we tend to like sustainability.
Yes.
Jobs as such. So you find more women in energy, but it's less women in engineering and less women in maintenance. So I find that more of a challenge. And I think your events are more focused on the energy management. So
Correct,
that's probably why you get
Yeah,
more
and also,
women.
I mean, we encourage the students, so we got a whole bunch of students.
Yeah.
And I was really glad to see loads of, female students
Questions,
turning
yeah.
up and doing that. Have you seen it? Have you got more female colleagues out there?
Yeah, again, I mean, my team is sustainability, so in terms of the energy side, it's more male, and in terms of the
Isn't that
environmental legislation, and it's really interesting. I guess another thing to add is I think it's a slow problem to solve. I think you can't just suddenly recruit loads of history teachers into engineering roles.
But funnily enough, you are getting, more, people, it used to be energy was just people from engineering or science.
Yeah.
You're getting people who've done perhaps biology or music or art. They're moving into it because of this changing thing. But still, we don't see, for us, we obviously, we believe there should be far more women, but we don't see it, and I don't know why. When, there's the Women's Energy Network, there's loads of things that are out there. Is there just a lack of engagement, you think, from young girls to come into this as a career?
Probably, and it's also some of the challenges. You need to be quite confident. You need to be able to speak to a lot of people. And I think once you're into it, you know how to do it, and it's easy as such to do the job. But I think it's challenging from the outside when you're looking at a job description that says, you need to engage with suppliers, you need to buy energy, or you need to deliver energy projects. It's probably quite challenging looking at that job role, and because there aren't many energy women's faces out there.
Now there are.
When I was joining the industry, I knew very, very few people, and very few people I knew was Manish Datta from M&S, for example. It's a phase that comes up, and I always thought that he was the god as such. I was aiming to be Manish. I didn't meet him.
We'll give him a call later.
I know. I didn't meet him. I worked with him at M&S. So, I didn't have the positive or the women's role models.
And are you trying to encourage that yourselves? Have you got some people coming through your ranks and you're going, come on, follow me, over the top?
I hope so, to some extent. I mean, definitely at the university we're seeing increasing gender diversity in STEM subjects generally. We hire students on sort of interns and things like that, which are very balanced. Hopefully that they're kind of coming up through the pipework. But I think a lot of people are doing lots of outreach work as well with school age students, which I think is really valuable.
Just to end, what would be your one biggest worry over the next year? Or not worry, what do you think is your biggest challenge for the next year?
Well, when I say flexibility, that has been on my mind for the last year as well, and I think it will stay on my mind for the next year. Is flexibility, and how do our business becomes more flexible in how we use energy and how do we help our customers to be more flexible as well with how they
and
use.
for you, Jo?
I think for me at the moment, it's definitely getting closer to the design process. So for construction projects and refurbishment projects, being involved all the way through. And I think we've come a long way from that being a process that then sustainability comes into right at the end and retrofits, to now we are involved
Being
in
involved
design.
in the consulting,
There's a lot of things. I mean, there's been a lot of talk today about smart buildings and integrated controls and things like that. I think it's a very fast evolving industry. Often when time is the key criteria for getting a building up, those are the things that don't get commissioned properly or are installed, but then the education isn't there on how to use them. And so I think that's something where we can provide a bit of continuity through the design team to the building users and have quite a valuable role. So just getting involved all the way through, making time for
And
it.
as it's Halloween, with energy, are you scared? Is it spooky or are you excited?
I'm excited.
Excellent.
Yeah, excited.
Okay, no fangs here. Ladies, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.